Y'all, we're going to talk about some real heavy stuff today, some good stuff. I'm going to go back a little bit and kind of do a little bit of bringing back into the steps and into some of the story of my life that will connect with that to allow you to see what I mean by certain things and the experiences that I had to where I am today. Just doing this live is great, it's beautiful, but it's sometimes we have to stay into the word of it, which is the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous, for all the newcomers that are coming on the live now. The newcomer is the most important person. That's how it always been, and it's how it always will be. It's mostly for me, because we trying to tie in some people to come on and just hear, some information, and get some education on your addiction, drug and alcohol addiction, even in your recovery, because we stop using drugs don't mean that everything is done. The thinking process is what we have to maintain, because that's the hardest part, to not use drugs and alcohol again. And to kind of understand that, we're not they say we're not a religious program, but we do know that the 12 steps and all have been based off a religious program. But it's by choice in recovery to choose a higher power, if you want to call him God or Allah or whatever you want to call him. I choose to call my higher power God. You know what I'm saying? And I believe and study in, religious, aspects, and I come up with my conscious contact with them. I was talking about to my niece, she was going through a little something, and I don't want to say that I'm a alcoholic. That's how I was approached, and my thing, hey Benita, welcome. My thing is, well, what do you think you are? When I was asked this question, that was brought to my attention. The first thing I say, y'all, I'm not a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. I'm just a grateful recovered addict. You know what I mean? That can share my strengths and hopes. And if any of them can help you, you know what I mean? That's the blessing out of it. This is what I promised my higher power that I would do. If I got clean, and I've learned how to stay clean, and she was telling me some things about, she's embarrassed because nobody would think she would be where she's at. That is a #1 trap for disease. So I asked her, I said, well, do you think that you're an alcoholic, drug addict? We call that, hey Steph, we call that dual diagnosed. I need you to call me, girl, please call me. And she said, well, watching, living in my truth, she said, I'm learning that I am. I said, well, let's give God the glory, because you have to surrender, and accept the fact of this is what you are, before you can even begin this thing. She said, I feel blessed that, you came on this live with this. She said, and it has helped me so much. And she said she was ready to surrender. So, I told her, I said, first I'm going to introduce you to the 12 steps, because this is what got me clean. This is how I got clean. I said, and if you can feel it, or you can see that something in here is where you need your help with, this is what I suggest that you do, but I want you to accept it first before just surrendering and jumping into it, because these 12 steps will become the most important the most important thing in your life. It depends on you, and she was crying and all, I said, and I could see that, you're really, sincere about this. I said, don't be shamed of where you are. Be grateful, and feel blessed to where you about to go today. Yesterday is history, today is today. And you just have to fight the power. That's what I call it. Fight the power, in you, to stay clean. It started out fun, just like it did for me and mostly everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And the fun becomes so fun that you don't realize how much of the fun you're having, with drugs and alcohol, And she told me that she felt like she was a functional addict. Y'all know we talked about that. Folks, my feelings about a functional addict. I mean, you just not as beat up as me, but you're getting beat up, because this is a silent killer. This is a silent thing. This thing don't let you think that you're doing anything wrong with it. It befriends you until it becomes the best you that you have ever been in a dark world. That's what it does. Without you even realize that your world is dark. Because you're having fun. It's a convincing little creature. You follow? I told her that's called disease. I said, and where you are today is you have to now learn how disease works and what disease is, And she said, well, see, all that, I don't want to get into all that because, I don't understand what disease is. Well, you have to want to learn what it is and how it works in order to fight it. You have to have a higher power greater than yourself. And she already believed in God, and that's good and that's cool. But now you got to do your part, and your surrender has to be honest. That's what I told her, So, and I'm saying this due to any, newcomer that has come on, that these are the steps that we have to take. These are the steps that we have to recognize, and I asked her first, does she think she needs to go into a rehab? No, I ain't going into no rehab, That's your choice. So that allowed me to know that the embarrassment and the mask wearing is great. It's real big on her. You know what I mean? And this is her first time she's ever spoke on herself having a problem. That's what she said. Put it that way. I think I got a problem with it. I think I'm addicted. I tried to stop a few times, but I just seem to always go back, So I said, well, this is how disease works. Again, it makes you feel like you're okay and everything works, but now you still have to accept the challenge of your surrender. And if you're asking me about the 12 steps, this is how it works for me. Other people can, do church, and do different things in recovery. But if you're asking me how these 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous work, you came to the right person. You know what I mean? I said, and firstly, my job is to, ask you, do you feel as though you need to go to rehab? My suggestion to you is to try an outpatient treatment, if you don't want to go to rehab, So she says she'll go to the outpatient treatment, but she's not going to go to rehab. But as far as I'm concerned, I congratulate her. And I gave her a hug because you're making these choices and you're telling me what's going on with you. And that's big. When you're ready to surrender, and you let somebody know that you're having this problem, that's a first step. Give yourself a round of applause. But then when it comes to the point where you want to kind of like, manipulate it a little bit, like I'm not this and I'm not that, don't think that the person is trying to, like say, well, it ain't that bad, or it's not this, or it's not that. It's just that it's hard to not, to feel embarrassed. It's hard to feel shame. You know what I mean? It's hard to tell somebody that probably her people was seeing in her anyway. You know what I mean? And now things is coming to reality. You know, you have to listen to the person, you know what I mean, and let them talk. You know, let them talk. You know, let them say what they feel is wrong with them. You know, and once you start listening to what they're saying and hearing it, then, you know, I felt like, you know, now it's open to offer some suggestions. You know, but I'm not going to tell her, no, girl, you need to go to rehab, you this and you that. Because, see, disease works through people, places, and things. And it can have us speak to a suffering person who's suffering more than you really know, you know, and we can run them away from us. We can make them feel like, you know what I mean, man, I knew I shouldn't have said nothing. I shouldn't have said nothing to them. They don't know or whoever you're talking to can sometimes make you hold the truth back, you know, because you don't want to let them know that things are as bad as they are. But when you can't function, you know, and this disease is in your way, you know what I mean? It don't get better, it gets worse. Just try to bring the truth out, because the truth is going to set you free. You know, she made a statement to me that she said, I know I'm not going to go to heaven. And she's been through church. She's in church. You know what I mean? She said, and all I want to do is be able to go to heaven. I said, let me tell you where heaven is. For me, heaven is not in the sky. Heaven is in your heart, and heaven is in your head. You have to cleanse all that. You know what I mean? And you're on your way to heaven. You have to fix all these devilish ways and devilish things that we do in this devilish world, you know, that get us entrapped in fun and all these things in society. You follow what I'm saying? And we have to start cleansing our thinking. We have to fix it, and we have to become closer to a higher power that's greater than ourselves. Even if you're atheist, if you feel like the higher power is the cup, well, guess what? You got to work with the cup. You know what I mean? It is your choice in recovery. We offer the choices of a higher power, because again, like I said, we have some people who don't believe in God. I was one who put God down, and I didn't believe in him either from a little girl up, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? But I found him. You know, and it's not to say that even to me, an atheist will find him. I know many of them that's been in recovery that has now found that higher power. You know what I mean? So don't give up on him, because he's there. You know, he's always there. You follow? He is there when we're doing great, and he's there when we're doing bad. You know what I'm saying? And the cleansing is self-cleansing. This cleansing is getting honest, you know what I mean? Surrendering and coming to believe. Hey, Veneer. And Karen, let me say hi. Sharon to a lot of everybody. I'm missing a little bit, you know. But it's not easy. You know what I mean? And it becomes simple, you know, once you come to believe and surrender. But we all need help. We all need help with getting to understand this particular disease. This disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. It is hideous, you know, and it would make you feel like you could do it and you okay, and you could do it by yourself, and, you know, keep us in the dynamic world, you know, like God don't work and he don't exist. You know what I mean? And destroyed your mind to a point where you could be okay, you know, just doing it, you know, and doing it by yourself. But that's always the missing link. It's a piece of the missing link, you know what I mean, of that puzzle that we are recreating, you know, to get it back into that beautiful you that you are, you know. And, you know, when she started, you know, telling me that, and she couldn't talk to her mom, she couldn't talk, you know, around, you know, to her friends and everything, I said, well, I swear I feel like, you know, you can find somebody like you did. You came to me, you know, and you wanted to hear some things about recovery, you know, and that's her first step, you know. And I am open, you know, but I'm very honest with it, because I don't play when it comes to recovery. You know, I don't beat around the corners. I be very honest as I possibly can, you know, because it'll be a lot of things that you don't want to hear that you need to hear. You know what I'm saying? That you may not be listening so that you can hear, because disease has a way that will block you out so you won't hear. You follow what I'm saying? And you think you're listening, you know? So I told her, I said, continue to watch, you know, this show, but I suggest that you get the proper help, you know, because I can only give you what Trey knows. I can only give you what Auntie, you know, learned and, you know, share my way. You know what I'm saying? So it's plenty people in this program now that can help you, you know, learn to help yourself. But I'm going to give her everything that I possibly can. And I have, but it's up to her to do the work, you know. So I did talk her into, well, suggest her into going in rehab. And, you know, give God the glory, she called, you know, to go into rehab. And right now she's there. You know what I mean? And I just feel so grateful, you know, and I feel so, what is the word that I'm looking for? I feel grateful and honored to be the one that she came to. You know what I'm saying? And she heard, I'm leaving out some things because confidentiality is confidentiality. I'm just trying to talk around it, like for the newcomers or for people who stuck and can't talk to certain people, you know, because they, you know, feed disease, you know, and don't realize that that's what they're doing. You know what I mean? And just, you know, daggering, you know what I mean? And, but mean well. I'm not saying that they don't mean well. But this show is to try to help people realize that words are very vicious, and sometimes the way that you use them and how you come at a person who really just needs you to listen, you know what I mean? No matter what they've done, if they come and they're surrendering, they are asking for help. They are hurting and they are in that stage of this sickness that, look, all I need is for somebody to love me, for somebody to hear me. I know I'm a liar. I know I'm a cheat. I know I've been out there doing this, ripping and running. I know I stole from you. You know, I know I've done this and I've done that, you know, but a surrender is a surrender, you know, and you might have heard it 20 times before. One of these times, it's going to be the real time, you know? So it's good to listen. It's good to listen, you know, to the person. You follow? And sometimes you can see, you know, in verse of all the lies that they told, you know, because we become liars. We become liars and we live the lie. We believe the lie and we gonna damn lie. You know what I mean? But we coming to you knowing that we've been lying, hurting, dragging, feeling, you know, so terrible. You know, if you have never been in this position, you know, or in this world, you can never talk about how an addict suffers. Really. You can talk what you see, but you can't talk what we could talk and let you know what we know. You know, and some of us don't know how to do that because all we see is this little thief, this little liar, you know what I mean? This little junkie, this little alcoholic, you know what I mean? Don't trust her, don't do this and don't do that. I'm quite sure some things you've done in your life that, you know, somebody probably said the same thing about you and you ain't even an addict or alcoholic, but it's something that some of us done that people be like, don't trust that person, you know, da-da-da-da, she this and she that. Even if they make it up, I don't care. People say that about each other all the time. You know what I mean? But one of these times, it's going to be the real time. It's going to be the right time. It's going to be that the addict is suffering and sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? I turn none away. You know, even the ones that I work with and everything and the things that I go through with them, you know, I still come back the next day shining and bright. You follow what I'm saying? Ready for another round today. You know what I mean? Because I understand it, because I am an addict. You know, and I speak highly of them and I speak for them, you know, that, you know, we are liars and we are manipulators, but we do tell the truth sometimes, but we lie so much it's hard to let you know that this is the truth, you know. So we have this program, you know, in AA, you know, that we discuss all these things, you know, and it's pretty much like preparing us you know, from people who's been where we've been, you know, and able to talk about a lot of the things and how they were dealt with through family members and loved ones, you know, and the people in the places, you know what I'm saying? And it pretty much have you expecting it, you know, when you fighting for your life and you still have these people that are unforgiven, you know, and say that they're going to heaven. Well, we need to cleanse that, because for me, heaven is inside. Heaven is cleansing the inside, the beauty, the peace, finding your peace, you know, to be able to forgive, to be able to live and let live, you know, for me. And that's just what I feel, you know. I don't look up in the sky and say, I hope I get there. I fix it. Where is that? You know, it's here in this heart and it's in this head, from all the worldly things that had me all confused about a whole lot of things, you know, out here. You know, had me doing a whole lot of worldly things, you know, but now I try to serve God. You follow what I'm saying? And keep my promise to help people learn how to help themselves from this vicious disease, you know. And as I've been cleaning myself over the years, hey, look, I'm finding my peace. I'm finding my peace. As I continue to get truthful and honest with myself, I'm feeling better and I'm feeling lighter and I'm feeling like I'm getting closer and closer and closer to my higher power, you know? And to me, that's heaven. That's heaven. Hey, hon, me and my sister was talking about this just yesterday, you know, and it's still sticking with me, hon. It's still sticking with me because I know that this is the truth. I know that this is how we get there. I feel it. You know, and this is just for me. You know, what works for me may not work for the next person, you know, but to get closer to God, you got to cleanse and you got to get it right, you know, the right way. You got to get it right, you know, and get out of a lot of these worldly ways they got us attacking and looking down on each other, when the real deal, they put the drugs out there, you know, for us to do just what we doing. You know what I mean? They made our world what they wanted to be. And when I say they, I'm quite sure you all know what we're talking about, from the time that we've been snatched from our own country and they done stole our land and everything else. You know what I mean? I get so deep with this thing anymore and think back on all this, all the way back to the ancestors and, you know, the history of everything. The more and more I learn about it, it's like, wow, they just modernized everything for me, you know, being out here in this world, you know what I'm saying? And going through certain things as I get older. You know, they say as you get older, you're supposed to get wiser. You know, back in the day, I couldn't see that, but today I see it, I feel it, I'm doing it, and I know it. You know what I mean? I know of that is the truth. You know I have to be closer to my higher power. I know I have to be right, you know, once I get to see him. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way I'm going to be able to see him. If I cleanse me, you know what I mean? If I cleanse the things, the way I think, you know what I mean? The things that I do, how I judge people, you know what I'm saying? How I go to places, judge places, and the things that I do. You know, I ask for forgiveness, and I'm fighting myself with a disease that's cunning, baffling, and powerful, who tries to stand in my way through just worldly things. You follow? Okay, you stop getting high. You stop feeding me, but I have other ways that I'm going to tear that butt up, Tracy. You know what I mean? That's Trey. You know, that's what she be saying. And I'm like, well, Trey, the more you come, the more I'm learning. You know what I mean? Because today I'm aware of who you are. I'm aware of the devil. I'm aware of the worldly things in this world that has had me psychotically crazy. You know what I mean? To be out there, to do all the things and made all them bad choices that I made anyway. Well, today, guess what? The puzzle with the pieces is coming together. You know what I mean? And that's cleansing myself. You know, that's loving you, loving the still suffering, loving the poor, you know, loving the daggone dogs that they out here abusing and everything. Just opening up to the world that where God has always set for us to be. You know, so I'm so grateful, you know, to even speak this way. You know what I mean? But I'm speaking from my heart, and I really feel everything that I'm saying, you know, and it's called growth, you know, and I'm still ripe. You know what I mean? I'm still not getting, green, you know? And I'm still not getting right, because for all of us and all of us who wake up one day at a time, every day, I know we all surrounded by a higher power, whether it's the good things that we do or it's the bad things that we do. I know he's there. You know what I mean? But to serve him and to realize that I'm trying to purify myself, you know, and you're trying to purify yourself, it's called cleansing. We have to do some cleansing. You know, we have to do some honest cleansing. You know, especially the ones of us that have this disease that we have, because I promise you, I don't want to die today, not from that. You know what I mean? But I know one day we all have to die, because we live to die. And in between that living and dying, we have to have that right righteousness and love and peace in our hearts for our higher power, you know, in order to socialize with him, in order to get to him. You know, we got to clean up first, you know. So for me, I'm grateful that I am able to have that understanding today, you know, because that was hard for me coming up, y'all. It was real hard for me coming up. And I was like, you know, for me, I got to destroy the image, you know, and start building the real me. You know what I'm saying? And keep the enemies out of it. You follow? I got to keep the enemies away from me. I see the hearts, y'all, so I know some of you hear me. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and that's what it's taking me to do. And sometimes I don't want to give up certain people. I don't want to give up certain things. You know what I mean? I don't want to allow people to get inside me and share this awful disease that I have. You know, today is called being aware, you know, and making positive choices. You know what I'm saying? Not to allow, you know, those type of people, to get in, stay in my life and get in my life, because I get nowhere with them. You know, all they do is cause me, you know, like, ugh. You follow what I'm saying? And when you think that you have somebody that you know that is good to you because they do something for you, you know what I mean? Or, you know, they feel like, you know, we all cool like this, but they don't do as much for you as you do for them. Not that you have to look, you know, for that, but when you can just blatantly see it, something wrong with the picture. You follow what I'm saying? And then always we can't surrender for what they do, you know, and always try to say, well, you know, I did this, and you know I'm that, and I did this, and I did that. This is what you're doing now, you know? Thanks for what you did then, you know what I mean? But this is what you're doing now. And I'm just figuring some things out, and I just want to be honest with you. You know, are we open? You know, as you think you was open to me that way? You know what I mean? Hey, best friend. You know, are you open to me that way? You know, I know who is open to me. I know who is great to, you know, good to me. I know who loves me. You know what I mean? Because some things that some people do is not love. You know, sometimes it could be just literally just hating or lust. You follow what I'm saying? In some kind of way. You know, you can have friends, and I got friends, but we supposed to be friends. You know what I mean? Y'all know I go all over the place sometimes with this, because words just send me to a direction. I just be wanting to say some stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know, and as a recovering person, today I know how to deal with it, and I know how to handle it. I know how to live and let God. You hear what I'm saying? I know how to do that and get sleep at night, you know, and have peace in me. You know, because I'm willing to talk the talk. You follow what I'm saying? As I'm trying to walk the walk, you know? But I can't let people get in the way of that, you know? And they don't even realize what they're doing. That's the point. That's crazy. They don't even realize that they're doing that, because they're so used to being who they are, you know, and need to cleanse themselves and stop being so freaking selfish, you know what I mean? Like it's all about you. You know what I mean? And sometimes you don't even know how to bring things out your mouth. You follow? And then you'll say, when you confront it, well, you know I didn't mean it like that. I know what you said. That's what I know. You know? I know what you said. And I know how I took it. You follow? And you know I felt some kind of way about it. But everywhere is not the right place to talk to anybody. I realize that too. You follow what I'm saying? That sometimes I can wait. You know? I learned how to wait. You know, because it's going to be the right time. You follow what I'm saying? And I feel good about that. Because normally I just jump right up on it. You know what I mean? I don't care who we in front of. You know? but I don't do that today. I don't. You know why? Because I'm finding my peace. You know what I mean? I'm finding my heaven. You follow what I'm saying? And I noticed that I would let little things like that get in the way sometimes. You know, but that stinking disease, I tell you, is cunning, baffling, and powerful. But I'm on top of it now. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on it now. This Natalie says, sometimes it gets harder. Let me see if I can get you up here. Sometimes it gets harder before it gets easier. That's why we got to keep working. God bless us in this journey. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, absolutely. You know, and it be the ones that you least expect. That's the whole 9 yards. It be the ones that you least expect. You know what I'm saying? Because some people can't handle change. They can't. Some people can't handle your success. You know what I mean? They can't stand it. You know what I mean? Some people want you to stay the way you was. They like you better the way you used to be. You follow? Well, guess what? I love me the way that I am. I love the fact that I'm constantly growing. You know what I mean? I know God loves me, so guess what? My children, my brothers, my sisters, my family, my closest sister friends, you know what I mean? My circle is full. You follow? And if you was in that circle and you had to fall out, fall out. That's what I feel. You know? Well, let's talk about it. That's all we got to do. We just have to talk about it. If we friends and we good, you know, you got love for me, I got love for you. You know when I'm up, you know when I'm down. You know what I mean? You know when something is going on with me. You know what I mean? But just check sometimes. But check yourself. Check yourself. Because I can slip around too and not be in touch in a minute. But that don't mean I don't love you. That don't mean that, you know, I'm not going to be around you. You know what I'm trying to say? That don't mean that, you know, I'm doing the worst thing in the world, because the same distance to get to me is the same distance to get to you. You follow what I'm saying? Some people can't see that. The same way you can pick up the phone, the same way I can pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Let's just try to figure out the problem in the situation like sisters, if that's what you say we are, or, you know, loved ones, that's what you say we are. Let's do that. You follow what I'm saying? But for as long as you can take, I can take. You know, for as long as I can take, you probably can take. That ain't nothing but the devil. That's all that is to me. You know, but one day, somehow, the ice will be broken. If never. You know what I mean? But what it's not going to do, it's not going to disturb me from who I am. It's not going to disturb me from what I'm working on in me. I can't change everything overnight, neither can you. But when this is a constant you, there's a problem. How about that one? You know, if I'm not the only one telling you this, take an inventory. For me, it's step 4. That's why I'm still there, y'all. That's why I work that 4th step like I can't ever do anything else. But that 4th step keeps me in check. It keeps me in check with myself, taking a personal inventory on myself. And sometimes you take so much or too much from somebody till that ain't nothing but disease too, allowing it to build up. You know what I mean? And then when I confront you, I'm going to confront you on a negative, you know, and not a positive, and not even care about it. But I'm trying to make this heart caring, because that's part of my heaven. You understand what I'm saying? That I know this heart and this mind has to be cleansed. It has to be clear. It has to be ready for heaven. You follow? So I look at things that way on certain situations like that. You know what I'm saying? Like like it says, destroy the image. You follow? And you will destroy the enemy. I think that's very, very, very awesome, you know, and something that you have to look at self first, you know, and do your inventory, you know what I'm saying? And then make a decision and choice how you're going to handle it, you know. So for me, that's part of my surrender, and it's part of helping me, you know, prepare myself. But hey, look, all of us need to do that, y'all, because the world's wicked. Boy, this thing is going crazy. You know, it's going off right now. You know what I mean? And we never know what day, what time, everything, that anything can happen. So I want to love and be loved. You know what I mean? But I want to do things right, you know, and I want to live peace in my heart and mind. You know, I I wanna do all the things that I'm supposed to do that God expects of me. You know, and like I said, it doesn't happen overnight, but take it one day at a time. You know what I'm saying? And things will get better. You know, and even in us in recovery, things will feel like it's getting worse before it gets better. That's even in life to me, period. It just shows me so much to have these 12 steps and, you know, to have the organization of people who live the recovery life, you know, and the addictive life like myself, you know, because it does nothing if you stay focused and be honest, you know, and be truthful to self. All these things is going to set you free, and you're just going to start being able to listen and hear very well and able to see, you know, what needs to be done, what needs to be fixed, what you're dealing with, who you dealing with, you know, why are you dealing with this situation and all. Hey friend, what you say, God will give you the desires of your heart. Absolutely. 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 That's why, you know, that higher power comes in first. You got to find them. You got to get them. You know what I mean? I didn't get better until I did that. You know, so I know that was the right piece to my puzzle that needed to be connected first before I can attach any more of the pieces. You know, and who's that Diane say, like mommy's favorite song, one day at a time. You know, sis, I never realized that, and then that's how I live, one day at a time. That's what I'm talking about. And higher power is awesome, you know. He sends you what you need to hear. He sends you what you need to know, you know. But back to like I was saying, you know, God is just not good when you're doing the right things. God is with you, you know, even when you're doing the bad things. You follow what I'm saying? You know, he's there. We just don't know that he's there. You know what I'm saying? We don't know he's there, period, until he appears, you know, in your heart and appears in your mind, you know. And this is just me. This is what I feel, y'all. You know, like I said, I'm no Dr. Lawyer's Indian chief, but I know I'm a grateful recovering addict on her way. I know I'm getting closer to God, and I know I'm feeling better, and I know all the promises that came to me, those promises are actually happening in my face, you know what I mean, in my life, you know, in my heart, you know, and in my soul, you know, because I'm not on here talking no dumb stuff, and I ain't on here making up nothing. I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth of what I've learned, you know, what I see and what I expect, you know, and just taking the challenge of this sickness, you know, has opened my eyes up to so many other things, you know what I mean? And now I can see, you know, just like it said, I can see because I'm willing and I'm open to learn, you know, and I'm willing and I'm open to share, you know, what I have to somebody else, you know, who's living and now suffering or once was suffering in the same world that I suffer from. You know, I am a living proof that it works if you work it. I know that. You know, we were talking about that in my group today. You know, I know I'm worth every bit of me. I'm worth every bit of the time that God gives me on this earth. You know what I mean? I'm worth every bit of being a mother. I'm worth every bit of being a grandmother. I'm worth every bit of being a great-grandmother. You know what I mean? Even if everything is not as perfect as I think it should be, you know, or as I want it. You know, sometimes I don't even see, you know, my grands. We all live in a different, you know, place, in a different part of, you know, Delaware, you know, Philly, Chester, you know, the whole 9 yards. I've never been to my grandma to sit in the rocking chair. You know what I mean? But I love every individually one of my grandchildren. You know what I mean? And when we all together, they know it. And when I am with them, they know it. And sometimes people would judge me like, you ain't with, you know, I don't see her with this grandchild. I don't see her with that one. I don't see her with this. And well, who are you? You know what I mean? This is my life. This is my world. My grandchildren don't feel like that. You know, that's what you're saying. And sometimes people can try to put that in kids' heads. You know what I mean? So you got to watch what you say around them because they're going to go by what they hear you saying. You know, children can listen, you know, and they do hear. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the answer gonna be is I love my grandma. You know? So, this is just some things that people put out there. The devil always trying to put things in the way, you know what I mean, of your journey. You know what I mean? Of you trying to not live by his ways. You know what I'm saying? Being all worldly out there like you the greatest person in the world. Well, do you. Do you, because I'm going to do me. You know what I mean? And right now, I really don't have any complaints, but I'm still digging for everything that has been suppressed to fix it. I'm still looking for inside for all of me, taking inventory to try to fix the things that is crumbling around up in that puzzle. You know what I mean? And I ain't caught them yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to continue to do that and get better with it, anything I do. But what you judge me by, I can care less. I really can't. You know what I mean? Because I'm cleansing for heaven for him, not for you. You know what I'm saying? So however you feel, it's okay. It's okay, because guess what? I'm going to tell you now, I love me some me. I do. I love me some me. Believe that. I have learned to know that I have to love me first before I can love you and anybody else. I have to cleanse myself. I have to fix myself. I got to bring myself away from all these worldly things, because my disease is in control when I allow you or people, places, and things to guide me. You know what I'm saying? In other words, to come in my world and tell me I know what I'm doing right. You're going to convince me that I'm doing it wrong because you see it your way and my way is wrong. Well, hey, look, fix you, because I'm definitely doing a good job on myself. Not that I don't take information from nobody, or I don't accept corrective criticism. But when I know it's some criticism that you need to fix in yourself, look, step off from me, because I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you why I think it. This is the reason why I stay in my steps. This is the reason why I say the Serenity Prayer 24/7, because it allows me to deal with people, places, and things, and also have the wisdom to know the difference. I was, when I was talking to that individual, my niece I was telling you I was talking to, she was so worried about what people are going to think and what people are going to say. I said, they're going to do that even when you do good. So you'll learn how to deal with that. Don't rush anything. Just keep focused on yourself so that you can get better. You have to keep focused on yourself, because you're going to need every bit of the strength that you have for yourself in order to get better. That goes through children, that goes through family, that goes through anybody, the neighbor, that goes through the people that's on the job, anywhere you go, anybody I know, anywhere I'm at. You know what I mean? When I feel something, normally today, I'm 99% right. Ain't that right, Angie? You know what I'm saying? I'm normally 99% right. You know what I mean? And then I'm wrong too on certain things, but I can also apologize. I can also surrender to it. You know what I mean? If my head go off, you know what I mean? I got to capture that. I have to surrender to that. I have to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? And if it's anything that I've done or I said, you know what I mean, from something that you said, you follow what I'm saying? And I'm wrong, I can apologize. But that's just where my thought was, and that's what I felt from whatever the situation was. You know what I mean? So I learned how to, again, live and let God, and people that love each other is not going to hate each other. People that loves each other is not going to fall back from each other. This is just me. People that I have in my life that I love, we can disagree to agree. You know what I'm saying? And we can say, whatever we need to say to each other. It's not what we say, it's how we say it, And if we can't do that, hey, that's a problem. You follow what I'm saying? That's a problem, and we got to fix it, because to me, it's just like it's nothing but the devil that's coming in between that, because it wants to keep us apart anyway. You know what I mean? It don't want us to love each other. It want us to hate each other. It want us to stay in hell. And I'm trying to find heaven within me. You know what I'm saying? So I have to always take inventory on things in myself, and think like I think, with my 12 steps, or use my Serenity Prayer. You know what I mean? Everybody say, oh, God, let me pray. Let me do this. Well, that's what my Serenity Prayer do for me. I'm praying. You know what I mean? And I'm also getting something from my prayer to help me to perceive whatever the situation is and to do the right thing, you know, not the wrong thing, you know, and pray that it can be fixed or it can be healed, you know. But some people, you know, see things differently. But telling you all a little bit about myself, that's how I see things. I've done a lot of things out in the world, you know what I mean, in my active addiction that, you know what, I'm not proud of it, you know. I'm definitely not proud of it, but I've accepted it. You follow what I'm saying? I definitely accept it, you know, and coming on a live like this, you know, devil always work in some kind of way. People always going to have their opinions. Oh, I remember when she did this. Or I remember it was like this. She ain't telling all the truth. Well, so what? If that's what you think, that's what you think. But see, I know that I am because I'm living in my truth. Whether you want to accept that or believe that or not, and I'm growing, you know, and I'm going to continue to grow, and I'm going to try my best with every single breath that I have is to stay clean, because I truly don't want to go back to where I left off. You understand what I'm saying? I truly want to continue to live, and let God and find my heaven. You know, so for all of us, you know what I mean? Let's cleanse ourselves and find our heaven, because when the day comes that we want to meet that higher power, we have to be clean. We have to be cleansed. You understand what I'm saying? Because some of us, they say, don't make it, you going to hell. No, we live in hell. That's what we do. We live in hell with all these type of things, you know, the drug addiction, the guns, the shooting, the everything, dealing with these people with their money, their jobs, their work, thinking we got this and thinking we got that, and we've always been the ones that was at the bottom toe of life with people. You know, I go there too. You follow what I'm saying? From an ancestor that was taken from their land and built up and raised by these devilish people that got us believing in their money, believing in their materialistic things, believing in their world, you know what I mean? Breaking our families down, separating our men from the women, the mothers from the children, you know what I mean? The fathers from the wives, you know, the whole 9 yards. This thing extends all the way back. I'm really seeing these things now, you know, and today for me is just modernized. You follow? Because we still spend their money. We still go to their stores. We still buy their houses. We still get everything that we need here come from those jokers. And anything that we do on our own and build our own, they destroy. You know? So we have to stop allowing all this destroying our minds, you know what I mean, keeping us in hell, you follow, and start fighting back. Come to believe in a higher power greater than yourself, and to get him to cleanse yourself and to find a peace in yourself so you can balance yourself to do just that. You know, I'm not even into the worldly things no more. You know, I gotta have what I have to have. You follow? But all the wants of all this craziness that's going on in this world that I'm recognizing today, all I want is my heaven. You know, I want my heaven because I think I gave them enough and accepted enough of this hell. That's how I feel, you know, today. And I know I went on this thing, you know what I mean, and bounced this thing. But guess what? It's just something that I feel and something that I wanted to say. You know what I mean? You know, I went into that tunnel, you know what I'm saying? And I went into that tunnel in their life, in their world, just what they wanted me to do, to see fun and to see happiness and all that kind of thing, thinking that I'm doing that. Then I got into the worldly things that they put out here to destroy all of us. You know what I mean? That's really kooky enough to do it. You know what I mean? And everything that they do, including our medications, you know what I'm saying, has an effect. Including our food has an effect. You know what I mean? They doing all these things, and we out here, you know, some of us out here, where those fans at? You know what I'm saying? Better cleanse. You better cleanse and get peace in you. You better start fixing yourself, because all those things are just distractions. You know what I mean? Without them, I'm still having fun. You know what I mean? I still feel good. You know, I don't have to wear all that stuff that everybody's wearing today. You know what I mean? Showing their whole bodies, you know, and all that stuff. I used to love that type of thing. But today I realized how I was just disgracing myself too. How they used to like to even see our ancestors, you know what I mean, out there dancing and collahooling, you know what I mean, and coming out the clothes, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I'm finding peace, y'all. I'm finding peace within me. I'm finding peace in this wicked way that we live. You know what I mean? I'm finding peace, you know, in not exploiting myself that way. You know what I mean? And to start helping people who needs the help. You know what I mean? And God gave me the walk in drug and alcohol. You know, it gave me the walk in realizing, you know, that drug and alcohol is not right. It's not good. You know what I mean? And all it's going to do is kill you and reform you in a way of all you just doing is just disintegrating, you know, out of their way. And so a blame is being put on you. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. I don't know if anybody with me today, but I'm telling you, that's where I'm at, you know? So, you know, dealing with that, you know, working on that first step for me is acceptance and surrendering. I am so grateful that I got the opportunity to do that. I am so grateful for the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous that has allowed me to help find myself. And I even give 2 coots and applause to disease that is cunning, baffling, and powerful, that I had the opportunity, y'all, the opportunity to even experience it, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think this would be me. You know, because I would still be tranquilized in the head, you know, and under their spell, you know, that I would never have even seen this, you know, and how to love God and to cleanse myself. You know, so I give it a little pat on the back, and I thank it, you know, for taking me to the place that I am today. You know what I mean? And I'm not glorifying that or making it seem like, oh, that's what you got to do to get where I'm at. No, that's what I had to do to get where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? So I could talk this. You know what I mean? Because I've walked it, you know, and I hope that it can help somebody on here, you know, that has taken the same walk, you know what I mean? Or taking little baby steps. That's what I call functional addicts. You know what I mean? Taking the little baby steps. Somewhere along the line, it will do damage, you know, drinking and drugging over the years. Somewhere down the line, it will do damage because it's meant to do that. And it's meant for us to think that it's okay to be functional. Do you follow what I'm saying? Hey, we don't need none of it. I know I don't need none of it, you know, none of the time, you know, anymore. You know, what I thought it was, it turned out not to be anyway, you know. And if I would have continued to do it, I was going to die, you know. And like I said, we all going to die, but I don't choose to die that way, not today, you know. So if you had, hey, Darlene, my sister-in-law, and Gilda, how y'all doing? You know, OC, how you doing, Miss OC? Tanya, how you doing? Y'all know I always fall over here to the name. Joan, how you doing? Thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Pam, thanks for being on. And my baby girl, how you doing? TK made it happen. Those are my babies. You know, Natalie, hey baby girl, good to see you on. I was thinking about you. Call me. You know, thank you know to my sister Tahisha, thank you for being on. Donna, you're always there. I appreciate you, honey. And Veneer, thank you. You know, my girl Sharon, love you. Jack, what's up, Jack? You know, we had a crazy day today. I guess this is why I'm talking all of this. That's one of my colleagues. Inez, what's up, girlfriend? Carolyn, thank you. Valerie, thank you. Stephanie, love you, thank you. Julie, Benita, my girl Rabia, Tanira, thank all of y'all for always coming on. Y'all know I always look forward to seeing you anyway. You know, after this, y'all, I got a little bit more we can continue with. I want y'all to share this live, you know. I mean, share this live. When you get off, share it, you know, so other people can hear, you know, some of this. You know what I mean? And we want to spread this around, you know, to as many people as we possibly can. You know, for all that are suffering addicts or addicts that are in recovery, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can, you know, you can put some of what you think on this live, you know what I mean? And let people know that, you know, what you know about this world and about this recovery, you know, thing. You know, just because it's Tracy Allen living in my truth, hey, you are all welcome. We in the living room. You know what I mean? And I would want any and every last one of you to come onto the couch. You're very much welcome to do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, and help me help others, you know, because somebody helped us, you know. So come on here, you know, and let's just change the tune on here. Let's just say something, you know what I mean, to help somebody. You know what I mean? Even as it's reciting one of the steps, you know, or where the step, you know, helped you, you know, and what you feel about, you know, these steps. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I hope anybody that comes on here, you know, is not ashamed of who they are and what they've done. And if you're finding out and you're growing, you know, to get where you are, keep watching. You know what I'm saying? Keep watching, because one day you're going to be ready. One day you're going to be like, okay, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? I want to help somebody too, because this is helping me. Some people are ashamed to go to NA. Some people are ashamed to go into rehab. Some people are ashamed to go to AA. You know what I mean? Because disease is that. Disease is not going to allow you to like it. Disease don't want you to be introduced to it. You know what I mean? It wants to continue to kill you. This thing is real. This disease is real. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful. No, it's not syphilis or gonorrhea. This is something that we invited in our lives. This is something that we accepted in our lives. It didn't come and come to us. We went to it. You know what I'm saying? And then it just got us toe up from the flow up and got us stuck. It took us totally. You know what I mean? And it takes its toll constantly, all day, all night. You know what I mean? And it'll do it forever if you don't get tired of being sick and tired of it. If you don't want to surrender and you okay with where you are, because some of us is stuck, y'all. Some of us is really stuck that, they just don't want to, face reality anymore. Let me tell y'all something. I am living what they quote unquote call a normal lifestyle today. That's what they call it, a normal lifestyle. In my addiction, my active addiction, that was a normal lifestyle too. That's what my norm from who I am today went to who I was yesterday. I hope y'all follow me on this. And I no longer understood this life. You know what I mean? My life was to get high. My life was to feed that monster. My life was to do whatever my mind said for me to do, because my heart didn't communicate with my mind no more. That's a trick from the little trigger. You follow what I'm saying? That's what it do. That's when you become the addict. That's when you become psychotic. That's when you become, mindless. That you don't, your brain don't know how to be normal for what we call in the world a normal lifestyle. This lifestyle. The brain forgets all about that because it's working on its own and it's working with no juice. It won't allow the heart to help it or to understand, what's going on, because it's made to do what it do for you to forget you. That's what drugs and alcohol do. That's why when you get lit and you out, you ain't right. You ain't here. You know what I mean? You're riding the roller coaster ride. You follow what I'm saying? And you think it's happy, it makes you think like you having fun and like it's okay, man, it was a blast. You know what I mean? And it's tearing you up inside. And it's doing it so quietly and so smooth that you don't even realize that it's being done. You know what I mean? You can't even see it. And on top of it, you can't even feel it because it's fun. You follow what I'm saying? And that's what the brain is making you feel. It's making you think that because it's only in control of all your emotions and feelings, and it's only going to let you feel what's going to let you continue to kill yourself. And you think it's good. And then it'll get you to the point where once you become burnt out, you just don't care about dying. You don't care about this shit. You even tell yourself, I'm going to die doing this, man. I'm going to just die doing this. I can't stop. You know what I mean? I want to stop, but I can't stop. There's no such thing of can't stop. You know what I mean? You just have to learn what disease is and how it works. And first, before you can do that, you have to surrender that I'm tired of being sick and tired. I can't say that enough. I have to continue to say it because that's where it makes us go. You know what I mean? This normal feeling that I am today it feels good. It feels great. I can think, I can love. You know what I mean? I can do great things, you know what I mean? But under the influence of drugs, I couldn't do nothing but run and chase. That's what my life became. And my brain and my body didn't know how to do anything else but that. It forgot about all of this. This wasn't allowed to be felt. This wasn't allowed to be seen. This wasn't allowed to be heard. It was all death do us part. That's what it came to. And the chase became the chase when I enjoyed the first hit of cocaine. You understand what I'm saying? I chased that thing, girl. I was looking for that high. If I could still get high and don't go through that type of life, I'll still be doing it. But I have the wisdom to know the difference today. I know that it's a killer, and I know that I'll never feel that thing twice. I don't care how long it's been since I've been getting high. It's not going to allow you to feel it. It's going to put you right back on that chase, and you're going to end up being worse than you was the last time. And it's been proven, and I see it all the time. I know from my own experience, because when I tried to stop without help, it did it to me. It took me back worse. It took me back worse. Let me believe that I was doing better and I had a better way of doing it, but it never worked out. It never worked out till I became the hoe, the trick, the thief, and all that shit, and it still didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. Period. Until people started explaining to me what was actually happening to me. Until I was out there in snow, way up here. Only one basically walking in the street, you know what I mean? And with $3 and something cents in my pocket, going to go get some more. And that hit wasn't going to do nothing. But in me, I'm feeling like, ooh, I hope I can go get, that this will make me feel better. Because it's such a painful feeling to not have any more dope. It is the worst fear in the world, because you're gonna run. You're gonna do whatever it tells you to do. And I don't care what it is. If they tell you to go over there and rob that Brinks truck 2 o'clock in the afternoon with everybody out and see you, the ill will make you do it. And if you think of some of the things that you were thinking, just to get a high that you are searching for, a high that you are running for, a high that you just don't realize that you're never going to feel that hit anymore. I wonder what would have happened if I would have finally felt it again. I probably would be double crazy. I'd probably be dead by now. It turns you into a monster, a living, walking, dead monster. And you have no control to just quit. You have to find something, to help you. You have to hit the bottom. Today, being a drug and alcohol, a lot of these young people that comes in, they don't even know what rock bottom is. They don't even know what rock bottom is. And rock bottom is something that they call old, old school. Always. Hey, I'm glad I did it and old now, but I got it and I'm living a great life. You know what I'm saying? Never is it old. It is the beginning. And it was the beginning way before me. And to keep me off of cocaine for 40 years, God knows it must work. You know what I mean? And you got to work it because you have to work it. You follow what I'm saying? Nothing is never old. Hell, I remember when a cookie only cost a penny and you got 2 for a penny. You follow what I'm saying? Today you get 1 for a penny and the cookie is not even a quarter of the size that it used to be. You understand where I'm going with this? You know what I mean? So nothing is old. It is the beginning. You know what I mean? You be grateful that this old happened, saying where you can start getting it now today. You know what I mean? But change is constant, and there's nothing constant but change. And us, we'll change shit, to our way. But then you have to understand, as the old, that is a generational gap. You follow what I'm saying? And it's going to grow in different eras anyway. Period. But disease is so cunning, baffling, and powerful, it'll make you think that's the old way. That's not the old way, it is the way. It's whatever works for you, and that's what works for me. And that's what worked for a lot of us in the age gap. You know what I'm saying? For me, some of the things that, and the way people share and how everybody think that they have to be the same and alike, but they don't even realize or hear themselves being alike, and doing it the way that person did it. I share the way I share, I feel the way I feel. The way I feel is helping people. It's helping people too. And I live off the same 12 steps that you live off of. You know, I believe in the same 12 steps you believe in. You follow? So I learn every day from you. You know? I see how disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful for the learners and the teachers that I have in the 12 steps. And Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, and how powerful and cunning that thing is, you know, to get in your way of things and have us to try to compare recovery. The 12 steps is the 12 steps. You follow? That's never changing. It's never going to change. It's how you perceive it. It's how you receive it. It's what you do with it. And if it's helping people, by God Almighty, continue to help people the way that you can help people. But don't you judge somebody else's way of helping people. Because if it wasn't for the people before you, you would have nothing to work with. So let's make it grow. Let's make it grow even and get even stronger by doing it all together. I don't judge anybody, you know, in how they share. But I can see when disease is still in the way. I can see where some people need to work on themselves that they see in me. I'm not perfect. I ain't got this thing where I feel as though I'm the best with this thing. Hell no. I am open every day and I'm learning so much. Because see, in recovery, y'all, all the good is just not what's needed. The bad is needed too, to keep your eyes open, to keep your ears open so you can listen and you can hear and you can see. You know what I mean? How powerful and cunning and baffling that disease is, because it works through people, places, and things. Now that's clear to me. But is somebody else there where I'm at? I don't judge. But I do see, I do hear, and I do listen. And I am striving for my heaven. You follow what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But if it's the way that you help somebody works for them and it works for you, continue to do it. Because that's how this thing works. Hey, Lisa. Lisa said, this can truly help save souls. Preach strength. Take shame out of the living. God has saved me when surrendering totally. Absolutely. Absolutely, sis, me and you both. And I am grateful. I am so grateful. And I am so happy, grateful for you. You know, just what you just said right now is going to help somebody else when they read that. You know, so you're helping me help people. This is what I mean by that. You know, share. Share on here. That's what it is. It's an open platform. It's an open platform for us to know that we're not alone in the way that we live and where we've been and where we are now. You know, and how far we have come. You know, I love this. You know what I mean? And I love when I see you guys come on this platform, you know what I mean? And even if it's just to listen. Because again, that's where it starts. We have to listen and we have to learn how to listen so that we can hear, you know, and then we may be able to see, you know, so with some people say judge. You know what I'm saying? But as long as I speak the truth, my truth, you know, I know my blessings are being answered. You know what I mean? And I know that I am growing and I'm going to continue to grow and continue to do what I can do for as long as God give me a day, you know, to come on and share, you know, my strengths and hurts, my goods, my bads, my ups, my downs. You know, I look forward to it. You know, it doesn't bother me to share, you know, the things that, you know, I had to have help with in order to get better. You know what I mean? I don't want my kids to hear the lies. I'm going to tell them the truth. You know what I mean? Let them judge for themselves. You know what I mean? But one thing I won't do is tell them, you know, if somebody says something, man, your mom did, you know, your mom was doing this and your mom did that. You know what I'm saying? And they ask me, you know, I'm going to tell them the truth. Yeah, I did it. You know, or, man, I ain't did no thing like that. You know what I'm saying? Nah, that's just people being people. You know what I mean? And you know how they say life be life and people being people. You follow what I'm saying? I have no shame to nothing of what I done. You know, I know that I've been forgiven for the things that I've done because I've asked for forgiveness truthfully, you know, and honestly. You follow what I'm saying? And God gave me my reward by allowing me to accept the things I can't change, you know, and change the things I can. And on top of that, to have the wisdom to know the difference, you know. So sticks and stones breaks my bones, but not today. And names never hurt me anymore. You know what I mean? Because I know who I am, and I know who I live for, and I know who's the power and the spirit, you know, and the Holy Ghost and all that. I'm aware. You know what I mean? And I'm also aware of people, places, and things. You know, so that life that I used to live have added and helped me to have this life that I live today. And that's what recovery does for us. You know what I mean? You just got to be ready for all of this. You know what I mean? And ready to say, oh, well, you know what I mean? And ready to say, thank you, Father, for all the blessings that have been answered for me. You know what I mean? These are my blessings, and I'm sharing them with you. You know what I mean? Because that's what he asks for me to do, you know? And that's what I do. And I've been doing it for a long time, you know? And I don't plan to stop. I don't plan to stop for as long as this mouth can move and go, you know what I mean? And this brain can think. I can say today that I'm going to do it. You know, I try not to get ahead of myself because we don't have a clue to know what's in store for us tomorrow, you know. But I know so far today, you know, that I'm still doing, you know, what I love doing, and I'm still doing what I promised my higher power that I would do, with the help of you all as well. You know, acceptance is something that, you know, most people challenge whether or not they're going to accept this or they're not going to accept it. You know, the ones who are open, the ones who need this, the ones who are living the lifestyle as the same as myself. You know what I mean? We brothers and sisters, we understand, we know, we come to one, and here we are. We're on this platform. We also have family and friends, you know what I mean? And people who are just watching, you know, just to hear it so they can get an understanding of this. You know what I mean? An understanding of the addict, you know, and the alcoholic. And to know that we don't always have to do what we were doing, but we have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired of ourselves in order to make change in ourselves. You know, so judging people and judging somebody is something that I don't choose to do anymore today, because I know that change can happen, and I know that change is constant, you know, and there's nothing constant but change. You know what I mean? And people, you know, that live in this wicked worldly world, as I do, and I did too, you know what I mean? Well, I ain't got no choice but to be here. You know what I mean? But I do have a choice of how I live. That's for sure. And that's as well as you, regardless of what I did. You know what I mean? You may look at it like, oh, yeah, well, you know, I remember she used to do this or she used to do that. I look at it as a joy. I look at it as a big blessing. I look at it as, you know, hallelujah. You follow what I'm saying? You know, and I can look at you that know you could have been with me. You know what I mean? And I look at you as, you know, I pray for you. I pray for you, and I hope that you can get better. You know what I mean? But because you didn't do it how I did it, or it didn't take you the way that it took me, you still do it. You know what I mean? And what I've learned today and what I know about the world and these worldly things and all those things that we used to do. Hey, look, disease is not prejudice. Disease, it don't care who you are. And it wants you to believe that. You know what I mean? It wants you to believe that lie, that it's okay, and you're not a junkie, or you're not an addict because you don't do it the way that I do it. I didn't go out there and sell myself. I didn't do this, but you still do it, and you still look forward to it, and you still buy it. You still do all of that, just like us. The same way we do it, we just did it more. That's all. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody in their right mind gonna tell me drugs, you know, and poison is good. You can't make me believe that. You know what I mean? And I'm one that took it down in the hole. I went out every day, out my door, out your door, out somebody's nobody's door, and I didn't know how to walk around the hole. I walked in the hole. But today I walk around the hole. You understand? I tried that bougie, sociable stuff. You know, it's sociable. You know what I mean? We have class with dying. That's what it is. We have class with becoming sick. You know, and I don't knock nobody to do it. So don't get me wrong. I just hate the sickness. I hate disease. I can't stand it. And I'm never going to give it props. I'm never going to say that it's okay. I'm never going to say that you did it the right way and I did it the wrong way. All of it's the wrong way. But the worldly things that we do and this devilish devil always make us think that things is okay. You know what I'm saying? To die. You follow? To die. Poison is poison. Poison is poison. Sickness is sickness. Disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. You understand me? It's cunning, baffling, and powerful. And that's what it do. It takes your thinking that you think that it's not working in your head because you're in control, but you look forward to that drink on the weekend. You look forward to that drink when you come home. You look forward to, getting high and all that when you come home and you think you're doing it right. You think it's not doing no damage to you. Hey, look, it's a slow killer. You know what I mean? You see people who be getting high from when we was little and then they die as we get older and they was still drinking and still drugging. Hey, look, this thing don't have no friends. This thing ain't got no special people. This thing do what it do. You follow? It do what it do. You know? So you have to be aware of that. You do. A lot of us, look at us, a lot of us with the big bellies. A lot of us, you know what I mean, that they got red eyes all the time and all this stuff. Man, that's poison stuff. That's poisonous. I'm not saying everybody got their big bellies from it, but I'm just rolling right now. You follow what I'm saying? It changes you. It do changes you. I can say that as a fact. It makes changes in you. You can tell a functional addict. Sometimes you smell like it, but you're the only one can't smell it. You follow what I'm saying? Then you spray yourself all up with all this perfume and everything, but guess what? It don't kill the smell. But in your mind, you think it does. That's a part of how disease work. That's a part of how this thing works. So to each his own. Say what you say. That's what I feel. And I only talk it because I walked it. I've been in all those levels, from the bougie down to the addict, down to the suffering addict. You follow? So I speak about what I know. I speak about what I experienced. And I speak about what all the people that's out here that has become the junkie. I became a junkie. So I done did almost every level of it, but died. And today, I refuse to die from it. Today, I thank my higher power, and I thank all the people who've been in NA and AA and these rehabs that have helped me to find my sanity, that has helped me to understand that I'm a sick person, who allows me to know that this disease is so cunning, baffling, and powerful that I'm going to always be sick, but I'm going to put her in remission. I call her Trey Trey. Y'all know what I call her. Trey Trey in remission. She hating me right now. I'm telling you, she can't stand me, and I ain't letting her out. I ain't letting her in. And you listen, Trey Trey. You follow what I'm saying? You listen. Let me terrorize you for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Let me keep you awesome, all bent up in a spot where you can't do nothing, you can't say nothing, and I'm not allowing you to kill me. And you live right inside me. You are me. You know what I mean? But, oh, man, I got a higher power now that has got my attention and has everything to do with who I am today, and I will not today allow you to speak. How about that? Starting to feel this now. Y'all hear me? Especially all my recovering people. You follow? Let people know you in recovery if you on this platform. Let them know you in recovery. You know what I mean? Let them know that you've been there, and where you are now. You follow? It's nothing wrong with it. It's just a gift. It's a gift that God gave us to help the still suffering. That's what it is. It's a blessing. We asked God for help and he gave it. He revealed it. That's because we wanted it that bad. We wanted it that much. This one time in my life, I didn't even know how to receive blessings. You know what I mean? But I sure enough know how to receive, and I don't care how long it gets to me. I know it's coming. You know? So again, y'all, today I was talking about, heaven, it ain't up in the sky. It's within us. It's in your heart and it's in your mind. And it's cleansing yourself to see the higher power who we supposed to feel, love, live, trust in anyway. You know what I mean? So a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to heaven because I'm this. Well, you better continue to cleanse yourself, and you better finish to clean yourself, because in this world and this crazy society that we live in, we got a whole lot of cleansing to do. Especially the ones of us that has been out there. So because you do a little bit, you know what I mean, and you look at the persons that to you is not doing anything, that don't make what you doing on top. It really don't. Like I said, you can't get cocky. You can't get right. You got to stay green and continue to grow and continue to fix you and continue to believe that higher power will be waiting right there for you. But to get in that door, you got to cleanse, as everybody say. You follow what I'm saying? To see him, to be with him, and you know what I mean? And to sit by side with him. You got to come right. You got to come right. You know? So keep on working on self. Think about some of the things that said. What works for me may not work for you. You know? But what I do know is disease in a double don't discriminate. I know that. It don't discriminate, you know? And whether it's not the way that it beat me down, it probably getting you in another way. You know? So stay right, you know? And keep your blessings rolling. You know what I mean? Don't become all judgmental on somebody else. You know what I mean? You see a suffering addict, try to help them. If they in your life, try to help them. You know, like none of us ain't never seen our parents or our grandparents or aunts and uncles drunk, having a good time and partying and all that kind of stuff. 9 out of 10, most of us came up with it. That's what made it fun for us. That's what made us not fear it. Monkey see, monkey do. As a child. Get real with it. Hey, Rachel. How you doing, Wanda? Hey, Wanda, I ain't seen you in a minute. How you doing? You might still be on there. You know, you won't say nothing. You know, hey, cousin. Anita, I'm going to call you by your name you got on here. Anita, oh, you said a blessing to us is also a blessing to someone else. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, cuz. You know, I know we've been there. You know what I mean? We've been there. You know, we done some things. You follow? And when we broke off, I done things that was even more crazier. You follow what I'm saying? You know, I'm glad to see you on here. How you doing too? You know, we got to get together. Call each other a little bit more. You know? Yeah, I'm on a mission, girl. You know what I mean? I'm on a mission to help people, you know, that wants to be helped. You know, and this platform is if you want to listen to it. You know? I see you absolutely. You know, LOL. Yeah. Sharon, I see you too. I see you keep popping up, mommy. When you coming back on, you gotta call me. Call me when you get the chance. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, we come on here, we share once, we ain't share not even a quarter of the thing. Y'all, we ain't share too much of it. We be on here for a minute. You know what I mean? We'll be on here for a minute. And you know me, I like to go right into conversation. I don't like for it to be all boring, you know what I mean? Or this and that, you know what I'm saying? But we'll be on the vibe of the whole thing the whole time, you know, because we human. We have a human side. You know, we can laugh about some things. I can laugh about a lot of things that I've done today, but I couldn't laugh when I was doing them. You know what I mean? But I have the wisdom to know the difference today because I've accepted it. You know what I mean? And I understand why I did and chose the things that I did. You know? So that is the most blessing that I could have ever received. You know what I mean? To be able to have lived it, 1, survived it, 2, and talk about it, 3, you know? And come out to the master plan of wanting to go to heaven. And I understand what heaven is today. You know what I mean? I'm thinking it's up in the sky and heaven is in us. Heaven is in us. You know what I mean? It's the peace, it's the cleanness, the cleansiness that we have to do with ourselves to get there. It's in the head, you know, it's in the heart, you know, and then we may have that opportunity, you know, to seek eyes. That's what I think. That's what I feel, you know, and that's just for me. You know, I see you, Sharon, so you get me. You know what I mean? You gotta call me, please. You know, because I want us to get on, you, me, and Patrice. You know what I mean? I think that would be that would be really, 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 really helpful and educational. You know what I mean? Like I said, y'all can come on this couch while I'm in my chair today. You know, my kids told me I need to change it up sometimes. Okay, I'll change it up. All right, this is my on the eye spot. You follow? But when I welcome you to the couch, you know what I mean? That's what that's for. She said the couch is for the couch. When you come on by yourself, you should just come on in the chair. All right, change is constant. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm open for suggestions. You know, and this is why I'm sitting over here in this chair. She even showed me how to sit. They said I should be like this. Child, please. I may start off this way, but I'm going to end up just like this because my gut and my heart and my feelings be like this, like on a roar. You know what I mean? But anybody is welcome to the couch. You know what I mean? Or we can go video. You follow? Y'all know I don't have technical difficulties too much like I used to. Except last week it let me down, but this week I'm back on. You follow what I'm saying? Everybody said, no, you should go podcast. No, I should do what I'm doing because I'm not feeling the podcast. I consider this a podcast. It's live. I like being live because you guys can answer me. You hear me, even though I can't hear you, but I can read what you say. I like this. I love this. You know, when it's time for me to go live, podcast, I'll go podcast. Y'all know I done had the offer with the Zuhulu or whatever that is and all that. I'm not in no rush for all that stuff. I'm going to do what I need to do as God says for me to do. You know what I mean? And I think this is working out very gratefully and very nice. You know what I mean? We get a lot of feedback, y'all. You know, and we get a lot of numbers on this thing. Because I know we in hidden spirits. I know we in closets. You know what I mean? I know we got masks, all kinds of masks out there being worn. You know what I mean? But in an open platform and listening and hearing the truth and seeing what you see from the truth, you know, I don't talk this mess, I walk this mess. So I could talk about it. You know what I mean? I could talk about it, what it did to me in my life and what I see is doing to other people in their life. I could talk about how it allowed me to grow. I could talk about how I found God in my life. I could talk about those 12 steps that I lived my life. You know what I mean? I could talk about them. And I talk about them the way that I talk about them and the way that I know how. And I share with anybody who's willing to listen. You know, we all share differently. I don't want to sound like somebody else. I just want to make the sense that when you listen to somebody else, you're going to hear the same thing that I'm telling you in a different flavor. That's all it is. It's just in a different flavor. You know? I know how the cake is baked now. Remember that, Sharon? I know how the cake is baked. It starts with a pan. Then it comes with a mix. And if my cake is chocolate cake, I can't let vanilla in it. I can't let strawberry in it. I can't let lemon in it. The only thing that can come in this cake is chocolate because that's going to keep my cake chocolate. That's going to keep me right. So this is how I live. I like that. That was pretty cool. You follow me? You know what I'm saying? Same with walking in the hole. I don't walk in the hole no more. I can see a hole when I'm coming out now. I can see a hole when it's in front of me. You follow what I'm saying? I walk around it. You follow? Because I am now today aware of it. You follow? So I hope somebody heard me today. I hope somebody, is willing to, come forth and, surrender, and share. This thing works if you work it, and finding a higher power greater than yourself, will give you the right vitamins, irons, and nutritions that you need. You know what I mean? And take you away from the poison. It's going to take you away from all the the poison have been putting in us physically, mentally, and spiritually. You know what I mean? All you have to do is want it, you know, because it's there. You have AA, you have NA, you have rehabs. There's many numbers. You can go online. There's many meetings everywhere, almost everywhere. All you got to do is go online. Matter of fact, just come on live today. It's just not me doing this. There's plenty of us that's doing it. You know what I mean? Catch one. You know what I mean? It'll make you watch another. I done found many of them now, and I'm really tuning in. I'm loving it. You know what I mean? It brought me closer to the religious, you know, aspect of life. You know what I mean? I'm watching those lives too. There's one good thing out of this doubles thing. You know what I mean? Like I was telling y'all, I just woke up and said, I'm going to do this thing on live. Because all you see on there is a bunch of nonsense, mostly. You know what I mean? Everybody that's doing something great is the power of this thing for me. You know what I mean? But all that nonsense and all that crazy mess on there, that's just the way that they want us to perceive life. They want us to keep our minds where it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? And where that it can't grow. Just to see all this foolishness, you know, and all this nonsense. You follow? But to come on here and find something that means something is the way to go. You follow? Because this is the kind of help that we need to put out here strongly. You know what I mean? To help the people who are suffering. You know, and help let them know that you do not have to suffer anymore. You know, some people can't make it to a meeting. Some people can't, you know, read. Some people can't even write. You know what I mean? But they can hear. You know what I mean? So when they learn, they can hear. They can learn how to listen. You know what I mean? God put something out here for all of us. For all of us. What you say, cuz you said, yes, you do crazy stuff. Absolutely. Ain't nothing positive about that thing. Ain't nothing positive. It'll make you laugh at stuff. That is seriously just dangerous. Just robbing you of your life. You know what I mean? Keeping you blind. You know? And you think everything is cool. Who is this? Vanique. Live through it. It's no, let's say live through it, survive it, talk about it. Sounds like your next t-shirt. Maybe I will add that in one. You know what I mean? Keep giving me those suggestions. Maybe I will add that in one. Maybe I'll make one for you, and you sport it. You know what I mean? And you let people know what that means and where they can get it. We're gonna do that. You know, so we'll stay in touch. You know, on that. Matter of fact, probably next week I'll have one done. You know, so I'm gonna write that down. I love suggestions. You know, from you all. Hey Monica, you know, I see you on here, and it's that Doris. Thanks for coming on. Nadine, thank you for being on. Again, my cousin Kathy DeGraff. Hey Kathy. DeGraffery, Maria, Lovelet. Hey, son, what's happening? That's my baby boy, Tamir. You know, Marquise, what's up, son? That's my son on my job. You know, thanks for coming back on, Wanda. Love you, Mom. You know, Kimberly Ann. Hey, Kim. You know, miss you. Lisa Reed, Tanira Nichols, Chambers, Angela Scott. Hey, Angie. Matt Atkins, Gilda, what's up, Gil? You know, my sister-in-law, Darlene, Osi. I got to this point, I think I'm catching up on the names now. You know, but y'all, I know we've been on here for a while. You know, I'm a hope and pray that this storm don't come, and y'all be aware of this really bad storm they saying we're getting ready to have tomorrow. You know, the ballroom that I was the decor person for, Elevations, is now closed, and I've been moving a lot of my my decor, you know, out of there. You know, you never know how much you got, boy, I tell you, till you gotta move. And tomorrow's pretty much almost my last day, so I'm trying to get people to do it. I can't, you know, do a lot of lifting and all that stuff because of this freaking sickness. You know what I mean? But God bless me, and I got most of it all out. You know what I mean? So, and then I have some very nice things that I'm going to be selling too, you know, just to get rid of it. You know, my storage is big and it's overwhelmed. You know what I mean? And a lot of the things I don't even need. you know, so I'm going to just put them up, you know, for sale. You know, we sold everything, my stuff, Chantel's stuff, everything, tables, everything. We were selling everything, and they went well. You know, so anybody that's interested, get in touch with me. Thanks for coming on, y'all. I appreciate you so much. You know I went a little bit over tonight, but I mean, that's just how I was feeling, and you didn't mind because you're still there, okay? Anybody that wants to come talk, share, you know, or just talk on a private note, you can always get in touch with me, you know, and we can do that. But if you want to come on the couch, come on. I need you on here. Sometimes I just need somebody sitting there with me, that's all. You follow what I'm saying? You can come do that too. You're more than welcome. I like to stop, you know, finish off on this with serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, God's will. Again, y'all, share this, please. Once we go off, everybody just hit share. Before you do anything, just hit share. You know what I mean? So this thing can travel, so this thing can get to other people, you know. And I will see you guys. I got a very good guest next week. You know what I mean? She's going to come on and she's going to put her thing down. You know, it's going to be some real interesting topics that's going to be on for next week. So again, y'all know, Living in My Truth, LMT Awards. This was the t-shirts that we made. And some of them are a lot more brighter though. You know, I wear all the duds that come out and all of that. But the ones that you'll buy will be in excellent condition. And that's done by TY Made It Happen. They do all, you know, my shirts and a lot of the things that I get done, y'all. If y'all having a party, baby shower, back to school stuff, you know, all kinds of things, they can make it. They can do it, you know. So look them up. TK Made It Happen. They're located in Wilmington, Delaware on Philadelphia Pike. Okay, so I'm half behind with the address and all that kind of stuff, but they'll put it up here. If you're still on, baby girls, put the address and everything up on here every time you come on, you know, this live, because they're always on and listening. Hey, Joel, I see you, sweetie. You know, Natalie, love you, LNT, your boys, family. Blessings to you all. Natalie, call me, please. I'll see you guys next week. And again, thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for having you and you guys, you know, going through this journey with me, you know, to help the still suffering and suffering addict. Love you too, cousin. I see you guys next Wednesday.